Right, yes, Ducky, how are we, mate? Welcome to In the Box. I've explained yesterday, I sent you a message explaining exactly what we're going to do. Folks at home probably know by now. Just going to go through your best 11 players you've played with throughout your career, Gillingham and Blackburn. Literally just going to go through your team. But first of all, how are you doing? How's the rehab going?
What's happening, pal? Lovely to see you and a new shaven barnet.
You liking that? Yeah, my cowlicks are coming through there, though. Growing back.
No, it's, in all seriousness, it's going really well to rehab. Obviously, the last few weeks with what's going on, it's been kind of tough. But yeah, everything's going really well. I'm still using the training facilities with one physio, so my work's going well, mate. 3 months in now.
Yeah.
So, as you know, you've had one. It's kind of tough. I think the first 3 months. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things where you have to kind of get your head around it, and then once I think you're through the first 3 months, you can kind of see the pitches, see the grass, start doing more work like that, and you can kind of get through it. Then I think.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone always says, don't they, like whoever's had the injury, that the 3 month period is the toughest one. So now that you're past that, obviously, like you say, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. One question, or two more questions before we start. Are you missing football or golf more?
You've completely stitched me up here. No, of course I miss football way more. I love it, man. You know me. Since I was a kid, mate. Always just football from my old man. Going to watch him on a Saturday when I was 6, 7 years old. So yeah, it's a strange time, you know. Like I never thought this would happen in our lifetime where football's kind of cancelled. It kind of feels like the break in the summer, doesn't it, a little bit, with obviously no games going on. But yeah, I miss it like crazy. Just on a Sunday, not sitting there and watching the big teams playing the Prem and stuff like that. It's hard. It's a weird time, and but yeah, missing the golf as well. It was one of the first things I asked the surgeon actually when I went to see him after 7 weeks. I said to him, when's the first time I can play golf? And he looked at me like I was talking a different language. And,
don't worry, I had the same thing.
And he said he reckons 16 weeks post-op. So I've got about a month left, and that's before I can get on the range.
Yeah.
And then once I'm on the range, he said another month of just hitting like kind of wedge shots on the range and back in on the course. I can't wait, mate, to be honest.
And mate, no Masters this year as well. I always text you when it's over the Masters as well. I absolutely got about that. But listen, is what it is. There's worse things happening in the world. Right, I'm sure I'll ask you some questions at the end once we've done your team, and I'm sure we'll get into things further during the whilst we're going through the team as well. But let's start off. Your Dream 11. Who do we have in goal?
So, I ain't played with that many good goalkeepers, to be fair.
There's going to be a few upset with them comments.
David Raya.
David Raya, okay. Cool.
He's moved on now. He got a move in the summer to Brentford. I think it really suits him at Brentford, the way they play. He's a Spanish goalie, and he's only young. He's younger than me. He's 24, I think. So when I first come, it was Jason Steele, actually, my first 2 weeks. He was number one. And he left and went to Brighton, and David come in, and the gaffer kind of gave him the one shirt. And he's technically unbelievable, as you'd expect from a Spanish goalie. He's not the biggest, but really agile. Best shot stopper I've ever played with by far, to be fair. Some of the saves he used to make in training was ridiculous. Kicking's a joke. I think just through experience, because he's quite young, he made a few silly mistakes, but I think you always expect over goalie. I think 24 to be played the amount of games that he has is really young for a goalkeeper. Their careers obviously go on a lot longer than ours. Being an outfield player, they can play till they're 36, 37, 38, whatever they want to. And I think he's definitely one of those that could easily move on to the Prem, I think.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that. Like, like I say, for a goalkeeper, 24 is very young, and he's moved on to Brentford now, and they're sort of pushing to get in the Premier League as well. New stadium coming along. Would you say that you definitely think he's got the ability to play in the top league? Obviously, like I said about you haven't played with that many great goalkeepers, but you'd have obviously come up against them as well, playing against them. Do you think he's obviously got the attributes to play in the Premier?
Yeah, I think if he just gets rid of them kind of silly little mistakes, there's a couple of times last year where he kind of made little rash decisions, but I think that just comes with experience as a goalie. And I think you're the same as me. As an outfield player, you blame the goalie for a lot of things anyway.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
it must be a tough position because any mistake normally leads to a goal, and no other position is kind of like that. And also, there's the competition of being a goalie. It's one position and that's it, and you can't play anywhere else. So it must be hard. Obviously, imagine if you was a number 2 sitting on the bench for a whole season. It's kind of difficult. But going back to the question, mate, he's got everything, I think, to make it at the top level.
Yeah, no, of course. Especially, I think even when I come up and watched you, he's a big dude as well, which is obviously important when it comes to playing at the top level. Right, that's the goalkeepers out of the way. I've spoken enough about them. We'll go across the back four. Back four, isn't it? You got?
Yeah, back four.
We'll go across the back four, starting from the right hand side. So who's going to be your right back?
Barry Fuller from Gillingham.
Barry Fuller, mate. He's going to be buzzing, mate. He's
going to be
buzzing to have made it into your team.
Yeah, do you know what? Baz was. I didn't really play much with him. He's a bit of a weird one because I never played in a professional game with Baz. I played rugby games and pre-season. My first season, he was still at Gills. So I played a few pre-season games with him. But it was more coming up through the youth team, playing in the resi games. A couple that he played in, I think he was coming back from injury, and watching him in the stands and stuff. He was just, I just remember looking at him thinking, no one goes past him, ever. Ever. No, I never see anyone run past him. I never see anyone outstrength him. So I'm going real right back, defensive. Baz is 100% gets there. Obviously, I'll play with Ryan Nyambi now, who's will be the best player, will be the best right back I've played with. In the end, he's top class, but he's still learning. He's still young. He'll go on to play in the Prem 1,000%. But Baz, is the one that comes to my mind that, well, especially when I was a kid, he was the best, I think.
Right, perfect. He's in. He will be buzzing with that as well. Right, centre half. Who's going to be in at centre half? So
centre half was tough, to be fair, because I played with some decent centre halves at Gills my first few seasons. Adam Barrett, Framo. Remember Framo?
Big Framo,
yeah. Max Amer, and then at Blackburn, Dara. But the two I've gone with are John Egan and Charlie Mulgrew.
John Egan and Charlie Mulgrew. Okay, go on, and we'll start off with John Egan. Tell us a little bit about him.
I just remember when he first come, first pre-season, it was Peter Taylor it was. We played in a game against Bromley, and I remember he kept like rapping it through the lines to me, and I'm thinking, who is this? Like, where's he come from? And then we got talking. We actually become like really, really good friends. He was from come out of Sunderland, Irish guy, and he was just brilliant. And he's a leader as well. I think he'd probably be my skipper in there as well. Great talker, good on the ball. Maybe lacked a little bit of pace, but whatever he lacked in that, he kind of has a football brain that never allows him to be in a position where he's going to get outpaced by a centre forward or a winger. He was the best player I think I played at. Best player I played with at Gills, I think, was Eags.
That's high praise. Obviously, you played with some really good players at Gillingham as well, like coming through there. Like I say, he come on loan really probably as a relatively young player. Like I was going to ask, like when he, like I say, you just said there in pre-season, you noticed that he was doing sort of different things straight away from centre half at sort of League One level there. Did you think, like when he came, obviously playing in the Premier League now for Sheffield United, does that surprise you, or is that about right?
Yeah, I think it's about right. I think it's not surprised me. I think the way he got there is the way I would have expected him to get there. I think his move was progress
his way through.
Yeah, I think it was always going to be with a team that he kind of went up with from the champ rather than getting a big move into the Prem. I think he went to Brentford, obviously, and he done really well at Brentford. And I don't know why, but they let him go to Sheffield United the season. I think it was the season Sheffield got promoted from League One.
Yeah.
Brentford let him go in the summer, and obviously we all know what Chris Wilder's done there. He's been amazing. Obviously, the way they play and stuff is crazy, really. And I think he fits into that three at the back as well. I think that's perfect for him, playing in the middle of a three. And yeah, you can see obviously their record in the Prem, clean sheets and that is
exactly.
Really.
Doing it at the top level week in, week out, and they'll be one of the teams that disappointed the season. Is either going to finish early or it might get shortened or whatever because they were flying. Right, so he's in the back four there, and he's alongside Charlie Mulgrew. Your old mate Charlie. Tell me a bit about him.
What a player! What a man! First of all, I think what a man. He's looked after me since I went to Blackburn. He's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life, and he's just an all-round nice guy. Do you know what I mean? But football-wise, his left foot's just unbelievable. Never really seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Absolute
one. I was going to ask that. Obviously, where he's, I'm sure everyone knows what a good player Charlie is and stuff. And you say there that he looks after you since you've been up there as well, which I know from speaking to you all the time. But for me, he's playing in at centre half in your team here. I know he spent a lot of time throughout his career playing in different positions. Would you say that's his best position? Would he say that's his best position? Or?
Well, I remember watching him when he played for Celtic, and he played centre mid a lot, holding midfield. And I think for Celtic, I think that's perfect for him because they'd have all the possession. I think if he's playing in a team that's got a lot of the ball, I think centre mid would be perfect for him, holding midfield. Yeah, he always wants it. He's good on the ball, good touch, passing's a joke, obviously. But I think for us, centre half, since I went to Blackburn, he only played centre half. He hasn't played anywhere else.
Okay, cool.
And I think that's perfect for him because he reads the game so well. He's a bit like Eags. I might be lacking a bit of pace though at the back though between them two. So slow.
You have to tell Raya to be on his toes, mate. He should be on his toes.
That's why I've got him there because he's like a sweeper keeper. Yeah, but no, going back to Charlie, he's just brilliant, mate. Set pieces, whatever you want from him, head it. And again, he's a bit like John. He's a leader. Obviously, he's club captain at Blackburn now. Speaks a lot in the meetings, speaks a lot on the pitch, and just helps out with kind of the going ons at the club. But as a player, just top class. Really good professional as well.
Yeah, no, that's what you want as well from your centre half. Okay, moving on then to your left back, and it is Cunningham.
Greg Cunningham, yeah.
Greg Cunningham, yeah. See, I was going to ask because this is a player that you haven't played a lot with actually. I've done a little bit of research. You haven't played a lot with him, so he must have made an impression on you. Yeah,
massive impression, mate. To be fair, when he first come, he come straight into the team, and I remember his first couple of games. I remember speaking to Danny Graham and saying, "He's fucking good, isn't he?" And Dan was like, "He's quality. Like, just gives you 8 out of 10 every week."
Every week,
A bit like Baz. Don't get run past. No. I ain't seen him get run past. Always in the right position, and I think most of all for me, for my team, just good on the ball. Always got pictures when it goes out to him. Always got a picture. Knows where the next pass is. And like you said, for him to get in the team after not playing that many games with him, just tells you everything you need to know. I think.
Exactly that, mate. Exactly that. That's why I thought I'd ask about that one because, like you say, you've probably played with some other good fullbacks, but the fact that you put him in there after having played not that many games with him, he must have really made an impression on you, which he obviously has. Right, moving on to midfield. We have got a midfield three. Yes, correct?
Yeah.
And right, holding midfield. We'll start with a holding midfield. Is going to be. Who's it going to be?
Bradley Johnson.
Bradley Johnson. Okay. Tell us a little bit about Brad.
Obviously, I only played with Brad this season. Again, ledge guy. Just a good man. To have around the place, good banter, and get on with him really well, actually.
The people say you look alike, by the way. The people say you look alike.
Yeah, a few people have.
It's been driving me mad. But when I see you sign for you, and I see a couple of pictures of you together, I was like, mate, they look like twins, them two.
Do you know what? There there was a ref last year when we played Derby, and he said to us, "Are you two brothers?" And Jono said, "Yeah, but I'm the better looking one." So, but no, Jono's ledge guy. Since he come in, he's been brilliant. Again, he's kind of a leader as well. He's had a top career. Obviously, played for Norwich, Derby, Leeds, played for some big clubs. And it's nice to speak to him about that. I talked to him quite a lot about that. Same with Charlie, about the clubs they've been at and like what it's like to play for like a Leeds United and teams like that. It's nice to get kind of little nuggets of information from them kind of going forward in my career.
Definitely. I think as well, like, because obviously I remember playing against Bradley myself when he was at Leeds, and just thinking that what a good player he was. But it wasn't until I actually spoke to our manager, Mark Stimson, at the time after the game, and that he'd actually come through non-league at Stevenage and stuff. So like I say, it just goes to show that you can be a top player coming through that level, which obviously has been highlighted in recent years with the likes of Jamie Vardy and stuff. But I think you can tell that in the way he plays sometimes when you watch him, can't you, as well, that he's still got that. He's got that other side of his game that he can, dig deep and get involved as well.
Yeah, I think you can definitely tell that he's come from a kind of non-league background. He shows a lot of grit, I think, in the middle of midfield. That's why he'd be in my team. I've said before, I think he's maybe one of those players that if you don't play with him, you don't understand how good he is. Maybe the fans don't appreciate him enough. I think when you play with him, and in my case, playing against him, I remember playing against him against Derby and coming off the pitch and thinking, that was tough. He's a top player. Like he was strong, good in the air, always got tight to you, always in the right position. When the ball come to him, he played 1 and 2 touch. It was hard to get it off him. So I remember I said to a couple of boys after, because he's best mates with Elliot Bennett, and I said to Benno, he's a good player, and Benno said, he is.
Yeah, so that's why he's in your team. Okay, 2 midfield players in front of him. We will start with. You've gone for Stuart Downing.
Stewie D, yeah. What a player.
Yeah,
honestly.
that good?
What
yeah,
a
see, I was going to ask
player.
before you explain a little bit about him, like, talk about Bradley Johnson there having come through non-league. Obviously, Downing was one of them that's come through probably, I think it was the academy at Middlesbrough. He's gone on to play for like the likes of Liverpool. He's played for England. Like, he's played at the very, very, very top level. Liverpool and England, just it doesn't get any higher than that. Is that something that you can, when obviously you've been playing with him for just probably over a year now, I suppose. Is that something you can tell? Like, you can tell that he's played at the top. How does he show that?
From the first session, you could tell he just
really.
It's his brain. It's his brain more than anything. I think his football brain's incredible. Some of the passes and some of the things you see him do in training is just like, for someone who's 35 now, you can tell when he was 25 he must have been some player. Just in training and stuff like that, it just doesn't give the ball away ever. And I think that's the main difference. I think that's what when I spoke to people like Stewie and Charlie, who's played obviously for Scotland and against Barcelona and teams like that, they say that the top level is everyone just kind of makes less mistakes, and then the mistakes you make are punished more. And I think that sums up how Stewie plays. He just doesn't make mistakes, and that's why he's played at the top level for such a long time, and can't give him enough credit for that. He's a top professional as well, does everything right. He could just sack it off, do you know what I mean? He's made his money. He's 38 caps for England, played for Liverpool, West Ham. He don't do that. He's a top man. Yeah,
no, that's interesting what you say there about, like you say, it's probably just a case of doing it more consistently, and say, obviously, if you can speak to people like that who've been at the top, it's only going to help you in your game. Speaking of yourself, you have put yourself alongside him in midfield. Cannot believe you put yourself in the team. That is absolutely scandalous. But listen, it's your team. You get to decide. But now, listen, all jokes aside, actually, to be fair, when you played at Gillingham, once you've come through, and now you're at Blackburn, you've been the main man, to be fair, at both clubs. So I'll allow you to put yourself in your own team there, mate.
Cheers, mate.
And what I was going to ask, I was going to say to you, you've included yourself in your own team, and it's a great team. And I remember, because it's important. It's important for me, like, I'm doing this because people are home and bored, and for young aspiring players, whether they be a professional club or a non-professional club at the moment. Young lads who want to get to where you've got to, and where you've been playing at. I just wanted to know, because I was really surprised when I had a game of golf with you. I think it was probably last summer. Just speaking to you and catching up with you, and you openly you admitted, and I was a little bit surprised. I must say, I was a little bit surprised that you admitted that at one stage at Gillingham when you first come through, you did find the pace of the game and difficult, and you had doubts. You doubted yourself a little bit. I just wanted you to sort of explain a little bit about that for the young players who are listening.
Well, I think I had that since I got released from Charlton. It kind of always put that nagging doubt in my head: would I ever be good enough?
Yeah, of course.
And obviously, I bounced back from that, got into Gillingham youth team, come up through the stages, whatever. But then getting into the first team, I told you, I think it was the first start I had was Wickham away in League Two.
That was it. I remember you saying it was like a specific game where you sort of felt like, whoa, I'm a bit off the pace here. But yeah, go on, explain.
I started this game. Martin Allen, as manager, put me in, played centre midfield in a free, and I just remember thinking, these are too good for me. The players were too good, too quick, too strong, everything. He took me off half time, and I remember going back and saying to my dad, I don't know if I'm going to be good enough to kind of play at this level. But I think I got over that. One, with the people around me that I surrounded myself with, and one, I think the players that were in that team at the time, which was lucky for me that a lot of the players were kind of older. It was an old group: Dion Burton, Adam Barrett, Danny Kedwell, Framo, Stuart Nelson. There was a lot of old heads in there that kind of guided me through that first season. Obviously, ended up winning League Two, and I think kind of from then it was just a confidence thing. Just the more games I played, the more confident I got, more experienced I got, more mature I got, and I think that's why I think the top players that come through at 17, 18 have that belief that even at 17 when they're on the pitch, nothing fazes them. They're the best player. They think they're the best player on the pitch, and I think over time I feel like I got that, but maybe at the start I didn't have that at all. No. And I'd say to young players now, don't ever doubt yourself. I think that was a mistake I made. I wish I'd never doubted myself. I think you got to believe in your own ability, like I do now. But I think from that age, if the manager is picking you in a team, that means you're good enough, I think, and you've got to believe that you're good enough. Yeah.
No, listen, that's the reason why I wanted to ask that question, just because I think, it's like what you just said there, players like a Wayne Rooney or an Owen coming through and just bursting on the scene at 17, at 18, I think it's important to highlight to these young aspiring players that, not everyone's story has to be like that. Look at yourself now. I mean, obviously, before you got the injury and stuff, probably regarded as one of the best players in the Championship, and it's a hell of a league to be regarded as one of the best players in. And you've actually come through the hard way at Gillingham, and you wasn't even then you wasn't like necessarily looking to burst straight onto other things, because you generally had doubts. And I think it's important that people see that you don't have to necessarily come on and absolutely start ripping things up straight away. It doesn't always work like that. You've adapted to different levels as you moved up. You've gone into League One with Gillingham. Obviously, won League Two, went into League One with Gillingham, had a couple of fantastic seasons there. Then you've gone on to a bigger club at Blackburn, done it in League One with them. Then you've moved on to the Championship, adapted yourself to that, and like I said, you're now regarded, not just by me, because I'll be biased, of course, but you're now regarded as one of the best players in the Championship. So, and that's why I believe, without trying to embarrass you, that's why I believe that you could, certainly go on and adapt to the top league. But that's a question for another at the end of this. So right, that's it. You're in your team anyway. Go on.
What do you think? How did you find it when you first come through? Because I feel like we're kind of similar personalities in a lot of ways, but then I think at that age, I think we're completely different. I feel like you at 17 you thought, I'm good enough to play at this level, kind of thing, and I was a bit different to that. How did you find it when you first come on?
Yeah, no, definitely. I can totally see what you're saying. I think it was funny. I listened to someone actually told me about it. It must have been a few months back now. They mentioned, I think, Rancy, Dean done a podcast. Young lad come through, obviously, in between us, Dean Rance. And, he said that he when he used to get asked over the first team, he'd find it like difficult. Like he almost didn't want to train with the first team. And then when he went back with the youth team, like he'd enjoy it, like he'd be buzzing. Whereas for me, it was totally opposite. And I look back now, it was probably a good thing and probably got me, to where I got to at one stage. I said, but now looking back, you think, oh, it's probably a little bit too arrogant and stuff at times. But like I say, everything happens for a reason. But yeah, for me, he actually mentions me in his podcast, and he says like, I'd see Rooney go over there, and it was like, he'd think he was the best player on the pitch. And I think, part of that made me the player that I was, and I think we was probably different in that sense. But listen, that's why I got older here, and you learn from my mistakes. No, it's good, mate. Listen, you're in there. You're number 10 shot, number 23 shot on your back. You're in your own team. But no, listen, like I said, it's different personalities, and that's what football's all about. And I'm just so pleased to see you doing as well as you are doing now. And you certainly look like you play now that you do think you're the best player in the park. Right, we will move on then to your front three. We will start. I'll lead you on then. So we'll start with Armstrong. Adam Armstrong, is it?
Yeah, Adam Armstrong. Yeah, on the left.
On the left-hand side, yeah.
Yeah, he won't thank me for that, mate. He wants to play centre forward, I think. But
he wants to be down the middle, yeah, like all four players.
He wants to be down the middle, but he's going to get in on the left. I come across Armour the season I won the first time I won League One Player of the Year with Gillingham. He was at Coventry under Tony Mowbray, who's the gaffer now at Blackburn.
Okay.
And they had some teammate, Armstrong, Murphy, Ryan Kent, James Maddison. Some team. And Armour was the one I think stood out the most playing against him. I think he scored 16, 17 goals before Christmas. He'd obviously already made his debut at 16 for Newcastle in the Premier League. And I'm not sure why it didn't really work out for him at Newcastle. I think. Yeah,
you know what? I was gonna step in there and ask, because I remember speaking to like a good pal of mine, Peter Ramage, I played with, who I'm actually he's booked in to do this as well. So we'll see what his team's saying as well another day. And I remember Rambo saying, and I was speaking to other people, and he was saying that they really had high hopes for him there, and that they felt like he should have been given a chance. And I'm not sure, maybe he was, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't given much of a chance there. I mean, you look at like some of the forwards that have come in probably after him and stuff, and Newcastle have always sort of struggled for that. Not necessarily a number 9, because obviously you've got him out wide and stuff. He might be different to a number 9, but they've struggled for a goal scorer. And I just wondered, do you feel that something, I don't know, maybe that's something you spoke to him about, but you feel like that he could play at that level, get back to that level?
Yeah, I think the reason he definitely didn't get given a chance at Newcastle.
Okay, there you go then, yeah.
Pardew was the one that brought him through, and I think Pardew really, really liked him. Obviously, give him his debut, then he went out on loan. He was only 18 when he went out on loan. Come back, and I think Pardew left, and then I think it was like, what it's like with a new manager. No, it takes a bit of bollocks for a new manager to come in and play a 19-year-old in the first team in the Premier League with no experience, and especially at a club that's big like Newcastle. It's not kind of like, no disrespect, like a Bournemouth or someone like that, where maybe you could get away with it.
Yeah.
And then I think, because the managers kept changing, he never really got that chance to show how good he was. Went out on a few loans, and then he ended up coming to Blackburn on loan the League One season, and he was brilliant, mate. Just so sharp. First day in training again.
Yeah.
Talking about the right back, I was talking about Ryan, and he gave him a torrid time in training. And I remember saying, he's a good player, rapid, quick, so quick. And the other thing I thought he's brilliant at, just a really natural finisher. Just the way he touches the ball, the way he finishes it, both feet, top corner, bottom corner, really good finisher. And this season, since I kind of got injured, he's been the one that's kind of scored all the goals. Long may that continue, mate, because he's been brilliant. And I think that he could definitely make his way back to the top level. More than quick enough, more than good enough on the ball, more than a good enough finisher. And I think them three things as a forward player are probably the most important.
No, that's great. And let's hope that he does that, whether it's with Blackburn or if he moves on. Right hand side.
J. Emmanuel Thomas.
Big Jet, yeah?
Big Jet. The most frustrating player I've ever played with.
Yeah, because
ever.
I was going to ask before you sort of go on to tell us, how good he is and how good he is or how good he was and stuff. Like I play, Big J was my age. Like so, when I was coming through at Charlton Palace, he was coming through at Arsenal, and like their team was an absolute joke. Like honestly, some of the players I had in their team was amazing, and he was obviously one of the top players there at Arsenal at the time growing up. I played against him throughout all the ages, and literally, I reckon every time I played against him. He was always a big boy anyway, but every time I played against him, I think he played in a different position every time. So I was just wondering, like, before you obviously go on to tell us about how good he was, if you've got him on the right-hand side, of course, what do you think his best position was?
I think the right side, I think where I've got him was his best position.
Coming in on his good foot, yeah.
Let him come in on his good foot because he had the best I've seen at coming inside and hitting it with his left, putting it in the far corner. He was the best at that. Listen, when he first come to Gills, first probably 10 games, he was unplayable, absolutely unplayable. Just incredible, some of the things he'd done. I used to sit back and say, how is he not playing in the Premier League? How? I didn't understand how. And I think I found out how the season that I spent with him. But then the first 10 games, it was just incredible to watch, be involved, be on the pitch with, in training. That was the thing with him. In training, every day, he was the best player. Every day. Couldn't get the ball off him in a five-a-side. Finishing was a joke. But then we went for a bad patch as a team. And he kind of went through a bad patch as a player. And he never really come out the back of it. And I think maybe that's what let him down, maybe, his mentality. But that's something you'd have to ask Jay. But yeah, the time I spent with him, he was quality, mate.
Cool, and he's in. Centre forward, last position, last but not least, who's going to lead the line for you?
Had to be the number 9, mate, DG, Danny Graham.
Danny Graham's in. Yeah. So, like I say, tell us a little bit about him. I know, like you mentioned about Charlie helping you since you signed up there, Charlie Mulgrew, but obviously I know personally from speaking to you, how he's really helped you both on and off the pitch. But yeah, if you want to just tell our listeners, like exactly, first of all, what makes him such a good player, why he's in your team, but also, how much of your success at Blackburn do you owe him?
First of all, I owe him a lot. To be fair, I'm not going to lie about it. He winds me up about it from time to time and take the piss out of each other, but I do honestly owe him a hell of a lot. I owe him loads, mate. Since the first day I walked in, I remember the first conversation we ever had. I hadn't signed yet. I was walking through the training ground doors, and he was walking out, and he said, "Make sure you sign." I'd never met him before. He said, "You're right, my name's Dan Rover, Dacky." Literally 30 seconds. He said, "Make sure you sign because I'll get you 15 goals this season." And we ended up not playing that much for the first 2 months of the season, and then we just kind of struck up this partnership. One of those things I think don't really happen that often where you don't work on it, it just kind of clicks. Ended up getting 18 goals and he got 17 in that first season. So he's brilliant player. Just knows the game so well. I think knows exactly where to be. When the ball's in certain positions, he knows where he should be. And I kind of fed off that. He wouldn't come into the areas that I wanted to go into. I wouldn't go into the areas that he wanted to go into. And yeah, it kind of just worked. And we had that kind of connection where we know where each other be, wherever the ball was, wherever it was going, we'd kind of know. And best centre forward I've played with by a long way, actually. And then, off the pitch, he's been massive for me as well. Obviously, had a bit of a tough time when I first moved to Blackburn, got in a bit of trouble in that. But he massively helped me with that, all that kind of stuff. He kind of made me grow up a lot, mature, and he's just a top guy. Yeah,
no, it's good to hear that that people were looking after that. People. It's great that I know myself when you move to clubs, when people look after you like that, makes all the difference. And when he told you to sign there, he certainly weren't wrong. Would you say? I think he said 18 goals and 17 goals each that season. That's saying something. And I think for you as well, the position where you play in that number 10 role as well, and the position you've adopted there, made your own. I think that's you know, because I will say that's your 11 done. You did have a few that you wanted to mention along the side. I think I just want to stay on that theme of centre forwards though, because I know you've mentioned. I know you said you didn't play with many other good goalkeepers. Nelson got a mention in there. Darryl got a mention. Lenihan, he got a mention. Rothwell, is it Joe? It's Joe Rothwell, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Rothwell got a mention. Max Amer got a mention. Corey Evans got a mention. So I better get all them in. Holtby got a mention. I want to ask about him after actually Holtby, but just to go back to the centre forward thing. Obviously, Danny Graham, someone you get on well with on and off the pitch. The other lads that you mentioned there, centre forward wise, is one's going back to your Gillingham days, like your Akin Fenwars, your Cody McDonald, your Danny Kedwells, the ones that you have mentioned, by the way, boys, just in case they're listening. And I just want to, because two of them are really big boys you wouldn't want to be upsetting as well, to be fair. And obviously, I played with them myself as well. I played with all of them myself at Gillingham as an attacking midfielder, and I actually struck up good relationship with them, not just on the pitch but personally as well. And still to this day, certainly speak to Keds and Big B all the time. Do you think that's certainly? I think it's probably a bit of a theme with you, isn't it, in terms of appreciating the centre forwards, probably because they were setting you up with goals or you're setting them up with goals. It's certainly something that's held you in good stead, and in terms of you carried that on to Blackburn now with Danny.
Yeah, obviously started probably the first centre forward I properly played with was Keds. Keds was brilliant. A bit kind of in the same mould as Dan. Big number 9, target man, good in the air, brings other people into play. But I think Keds was a good finisher as well. I think Keds wouldn't even mind me saying this. Obviously, Dan's had a top career. Dan's kind of an improved Danny Kedwell. I think everything that Keds is good at, Dan's just better at.
Of course. And hence why he probably played at a better level,
Yeah, exactly. And then going on to probably the next strike partner I had was B. But I think I played with B in a diamond or with B, they always played Cody B and then me and behind them kind of thing. So I kind of played with them two at the same time. Yeah, as a pair. But I thought B was the best. B was the most unselfish one I played with by far. Yeah. I think anyone would tell you that played with him, the most unselfish person on the pitch. He'd rather lay it onto you, even if he had an open goal, I think. And I had a great relationship with him as well. One of those ones where if the ball went up to him, I kind of knew exactly where he was going to lay it off to me, and he kind of vice versa. I really enjoyed playing with him. I didn't probably get enough game time, I think, under Peter Taylor to really strike up a real good partnership with him. And then obviously he ended up leaving, and then it was kind of me and Cody. We played like a 4-2-3-1 a lot under Justin. And Code was obviously different to all three of them. He was more running behind. I think Code would tell you a lot as well that he probably is not the best footballer on the planet. And he didn't really bring a hell of a lot to the team, except obviously worked his absolute nuts off every game. And he'd score you probably 20 goals a season. He was good in the box. But for me, whenever I got turned, he was always making a good run in behind. And I managed to find him on a few occasions. I think the times we played together, we again struck up a really good partnership. And it was just a shame that he had a lot of injuries towards the end, I think, with his metatarsal, and he had a couple of other little niggles, and then obviously he done his ACL, I think, now, which is tough for him. But yeah, between all four of them, I struck up really good partnerships with all of them. That's kind of been a trait of mine since I've started playing.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's why I thought I'd mention it. And hopefully we can try and get a big man back in Fenwar. And Keds has already said he's going to do it, but you never know about him. I know he's a big time celebrity now. You know what I mean? Beast mode and all that. So might not be able to get him on there. But I'm joking. I'm sure if I get hold of him, I haven't spoken to him for a little while, but I'm sure if I get hold of him, especially at the moment when everyone's bored out their heads at home, I'm sure it'd be great to get him on there in the box. And it'd be great to get. I'm sure we'll come out of a big 11, like a good 11 as well. And I don't think anyone will be arguing with him if they're not in his team anyway. So.
You're not wrong, mate.
Right, so that's your team. You're pleased with that, yeah? You're happy? No changes? You're happy with that starting 11, yeah? You got yourself in there, which is...
I think Yeah, I think I'm good with that. Yeah, I've got to put
That's
myself.
the one player I wanted to mention here. That obviously Holtby, he's come over, from abroad, and I know he was really raved about as a young player, and I know when I spoke to you that you was really impressed with him. What do you make of him? Just for our listeners.
Yeah, well, obviously, like you said, he had a kind of name. Come from Tottenham. Obviously, played in that Tottenham team with Gareth Bale and Defoe and Crouch and players like that. So he had a kind of reputation, and he went back to Germany. I think he played for Schalke and Hamburg, and then out of nowhere it was really. I think we signed him, and like I said, a lot of this is to do with training. Do you know what I mean? In first few days in training, I think you can tell a lot about a player.
So I was going to say that's interesting for our younger viewers or players who haven't turned professional yet, younger players. Like when you're a player like that and you're at a club, like first impressions mean a lot, don't they? Like when you come in and train, you can tell almost nearly straight away. At least don't get me wrong, some people come in and they struggle at first and then they go on to be great players, but for your team. But I think as a player, there's that thing in there, like when you're training and then someone turns up, like especially if it's someone you've signed with a lot of money or whatever it is, you're like, right, let's see what he's got. Like first impressions count for a lot, don't they?
Yeah, they last, mate. First impressions last. I think, like you said, there's a very small amount of people that don't start training well, kind of like the first few months, and then kind of go on to be better than what you thought. I think that happens very rarely, and then even more rare than that is the players that can't train at all, are terrible in training, and then come a Saturday they kind of turn it on. Very, very rare. I've seen that in my career at least. But yeah, going back to Holtby, when he first came in, the first few training sessions, you could just tell he had played at a high level, a bit like Stewie Downing. You could tell he had played in Champions Leagues and the Prem and in the Bundesliga. Just really neat and tidy. Doesn't give the ball away very often. Really fit, like lean athlete. And the main thing I noticed was, like I said, was just his passing. I think didn't give the ball away, mate. Knows where to pass it. Pictures in his head. Everything you'd ask for a centre midfielder. Yeah.
Perfect. Right. Well, he's not that good though, because he don't get in your team. He's not better than you, so you're in. It's fine. No problem.
Nah, he's not better than me, mate. Come on.
But no, listen, right, that's your team done. We'll get that up for you, and obviously we'll post that on Instagram and Twitter like we're going to do everyone else's once they're ready to get out there. Just going to finish off. With some questions, really. Like I say, I've added a couple of questions in there during whilst you were going through your team, particularly just for the younger players at home. Like I keep mentioning, like I'm sure they'll all be on board, and hopefully as many of them will be tuning into this in the box as possible, and it'll be good for them. Yeah. So just to finish off, really, Matt. I know we mentioned a little bit about it at the start about your rehab. I'm sure, especially all the Blackburn Rovers fans, if any of them managed to tune into this, like you said, got to that 3-month mark with your rehab now, so you probably answered that question a little bit. It's going great, and I know obviously I've been in pretty much constant contact with you since you've done your knee. Obviously, like I say, I've done it myself and I didn't manage to come back in from it. But for yourself, it's great that when I have been messaging you, you've looked at it, on a positive note. Every time I've asked you about it, you've even come back and said you've been enjoying it, which is the best way to look at it. Because I've got to be honest, from my point of view, I really struggled with it. It was something that I didn't enjoy, and I really struggled. So to hear you saying that you're enjoying it and stuff, that's it's spot on, and it excites me to think that you're enjoying it. And like I said, you answered the question about the rehab at the start a little bit anyway. I just was wondering, like, in terms of, have you spoke to other than myself? Like, have you spoke to other lads who have, the one example I always think about now is like someone like Callum Wilson, he's come back from 2 and he's gone on to play for England, because I think you look at it. I think we all know that you've probably got aspirations, and you've declared it in the past that you've got aspirations to go on and play in the Premier League. I should imagine it hasn't, but the injury hasn't changed that. Like you still hope to play in the Premier League.
Oh yeah, 100%, mate. I see this injury as a positive now. I spoke to a lot, going back to the start of the question, I spoke to a lot of people at the start when I first got injured, before my surgery, just after my surgery, because I was a little bit, I hadn't really got my head around it properly yet. Wanted to speak to a few people. How did it feel when you come back? Kind of asking them questions. Should this be happening? Should that be happening? And then after the first 2 weeks, when I first started going back into the training ground, started getting my work done, I was like, right, well, I spoke to the physio, who's been brilliant with me, to be fair. Ollie, his name is. We've kind of worked together. I've got a really close bond now. And yeah, we kind of just come to the agreement that just see this as a positive thing. See it as when you're going to have 9 months to make yourself the best possible version of you can be. And now I think people are going to be like, when I come back, what the fuck has he been doing for the last 9 months? Because it's a different person, different player.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see it. And that's why I'm excited. That's why I'm enjoying it, because I'm enjoying the fact that people are going to say that about me, and that people are going to be like, well, if we didn't think he was professional enough, or we didn't think he had enough drive, or he didn't think he had enough determination to get to the Premier League, and that's why he hasn't got the chance, then that'll all change when I kind of come back. And that's what I've got in my head. And that's not gonna leave me, obviously.
Yeah, no, listen, mate, that's great to hear. And, you know, like I say, I've been in constant contact with you, but it's just great for people. And I'm sure loads of Gillingham fans and Blackburn fans will be tuning in. And it's great for them to hear that, you know, you're so focused and driven to come back. Because, like I say, you know, a lot of people do come back from it, you know, stronger. Like I said, the one example I think of is Alan Wilson, who's done it twice. And then he goes on to play for England, you know. And for me, I just think you've got to look at it and think, you know, if you can get back, you know, like I said, if you can go back, get back even to a point where you could be better than before you got injured, then, you know, that's going to be, you know, it's going to be quite, you know, scary, to be honest. You can get back to, and, you know, like I say, probably get even stronger and become a better player, because it's only going to help you going forward. And for me, like I say, I'm biased. Of course, I'm biased. At the end of the day, I believe you can go on to be a Premier League player. And, you know, I'm sure that you've been linked with, you know, Premier League moves quite often, or, you know, top end Championship moves, which would have probably meant you'd have gone on to be a Premier League player and stuff. And listen, I won't get into all details in terms of transfer speculation and stuff like that, because that's not what I'm here to do. But for me as well, like coming back from the injury and stuff, you know, you mentioned it there, and quite a few of the boys you put in your team that are still at Blackburn now, young players like yourself, who are probably, you know, you're probably not the only player at Blackburn who's trying to get into the Premier League. So with the amount of players that you've mentioned there, and, you know, Blackburn have done pretty well as well since your injury and stuff, you know, you must really, especially, I know how much how important the club is to you, and I've been up there, watched some of your games, and it's such a fantastic football club. You know, they've won the Premier League, the history there and stuff. You know, it must be a bit of a dream of yours to think, you know what, why couldn't I actually achieve it with Blackburn?
Yeah, I think that's the goal, mate. I think first and foremost that'd be the goal, to get to the number one would be to get to the Premier League with Blackburn. But I've made no kind of secret about it that if that weren't to happen, then it'd be up to me to try and get a move to the Premier League, kind of thing.
Yeah, of course.
And I think, like I said, I made no secret of that, and that might not come, and I might be with Blackburn for who knows how long. But I think that's my main ambition is obviously to get promoted to Premier League with Blackburn, and then kind of go from there. And I think with the way things are going, I think with the team we got and the manager, and like you said, a fantastic club, everything built in around it, there's no reason why that team can't get promoted to the Premier League. I think it's definitely one of those things where I can feel it around the training ground. I think everyone else can. That it's definitely a club that's only going one way, and that's kind of up. Still, maybe think we need a few more players, maybe in the summer. With obviously, I don't know what's going on at the minute, but yeah, I think definitely if it's not this year, then next year we'll definitely be challenging for them top six.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was going to mention that as well before we go, like in terms of the coronavirus and stuff. And, you know, like I say, I think I mentioned it earlier that, you know, there's you know, football, you know, it doesn't come into it really when people are losing their lives at the minute in this country. But for me, it's like in a selfish way, in terms of the timing and all the football that's being missed by everybody at the minute. obviously you're missing it yourself, it's actually probably going to help you in terms of how many games you might end up missing.
Yeah, obviously with this everything going on, obviously it's horrible and football kind of becomes insignificant at this time. Obviously people dying and stuff like that, which is obviously the worst thing you could kind of wish on anyone. But yeah, from a selfish point of view, I suppose it's something that could help me. Will help me.
Yeah.
Because I'll miss less football than I thought I was going to miss. Obviously, kind of trying to aim for middle of September, start of October to be back by then, and who knows when the season's going to kind of start and finish. And I think that's all up in the air still at the minute. But like you said, it's definitely benefiting me and my injury because I'll end up missing less games of football.
Yeah, no, of course. Like I say, from a selfish point of view, that is the only thing that's probably going to help. And yeah, so how are you coping with the boredom at home anyway?
It's horrible, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's fucking horrible. Just getting my rehab done in the morning, doing all my kind of work, and I'll do a little uppers session normally at home. And then after that, I'm just me and the missus, just watching TV series, and then normally I'll play a bit of PlayStation in the night kind of thing, and then all starts again the next day, mate. I'm sure that's pretty similar for everyone else as well.
That's it, mate. I can't believe, to be fair, I'm just looking through your team. I can't believe you ain't put, like, how many of these boys' boots have you cleaned? Do you know what I mean? Like, you used to clean my boots and I ain't even had to mention that. It's an absolute disgrace, to be honest. But no, listen, I'm joking.
I knew that was. I knew
I had to mention that. That was always coming in there, like, do you know what I'm saying?
Listen, I couldn't put you in. I wasn't going to put me in the team. I wasn't going to put you in the team. So obviously you was doing the interview. So I didn't want people to think, I'm only putting him in the team because he's doing the interview. But listen, you'd definitely be on my bench.
I'm joking. I'm joking. I would be absolutely nowhere near this team. But to be fair, the only way I'd get near this team is if I organise a Christmas night out. Like, you're probably surprised this is water, not Peroni, to be fair.
I thought you might have a beer, mate.
I know, you know what? I don't like drinking indoors, actually. But now, listen, Dacky, absolute pleasure as always, and I really, really appreciate you doing that. Like I say, I know everyone, the whole of the sporting world, let alone football, can be bored at the moment. So, to have something like that, I think it's been about 50 minutes, got my timer on there. To have an hour with yourself there, just under an hour with yourself, I'm sure there's going to be so many people who are going to hopefully enjoy that. They might want to mute my bit off and just listen to all the info that you've put out there. And listen, mate. Like I said, thanks very much, and I'll try and get hold of a few of the ones you've named there. If you can help as well, like maybe mention it to a few of the Blackburn boys. I'm sure they'd all be welcome to come on in the box because I think it's going to be great. Especially like I say, I'm going to try and aim it to ask questions. Where younger players watching it as well as the fans can try and get some inspiration from it really. And like I say, I think it's going to be a good probably 3 to 4 weeks at home at minimum. So the more of these I can get out there, the better it's going to be for the fans and for younger players.
Oh, mate, absolute pleasure to come on, mate. I think it's going to be a really good thing. I think, like you said, boredom now. I think I've watched a few of the live videos on Instagram with people like Jamie Redknapp and Rory McIlroy, and I think.
Oh my God, how good was that, by the way?
Good, wasn't it?
How good was that?
It was good, mate.
Oh man, I should have put a cap on, really. Like, you know what I mean? I certainly don't look as good as Jamie did. That's for sure.
That's why I put it on, mate. Because I see them two the other night and thought, yeah, they look the bollocks.
You know what? He had a beer as well, actually. So I've got it well wrong. I should have got a glass of red wine outside.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But no, well, it's a really good thing.
Like I said, if this goes,
I'll speak to them.
Yeah, speak to a few of the boys for me. That's top man. Like I said as well, if this goes on, like I say, the more that we can get done, the better, really. And yeah, mate, like I said, absolutely perfect. And get onto that surgeon, mate, and specialist, and find out when you can play golf again. Because get back down here and I'll kick your ass like I always do.
Steady.
Right, listen, mate. Take care, and I will speak to you soon, mate.